TV. The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Good afternoon and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm your host today, Mary Jane Murray, and we're wishing David Shearman a speedy recovery. He's just a little under the weather and he'll be back next week. But I really have the pleasure today to speak with the mayor of the municipality of Meaford, Barb Clumpus. And Barb and I have met on other terms in other territories in the past. So I was absolutely delighted to sit in for David today. This is going to be my favorite. Oh, but don't tell Mary Embody that. So I have been chatting, welcome and thank you, I have been chatting with Barb, and one of the questions that I really have always wanted to ask politicians is, why did you choose Meaford, or the municipality of Meaford?
Well, thank you, Mary Jane, for hosting and your kind words. I'm looking forward to this afternoon, the conversation as well. It's always a pleasure to be on Politically Speaking, an opportunity that I welcome. So why did I choose Meaford? Well, it goes back a long ways. I've been here for 22 years now, so I'm a relative newcomer compared to many of our founding families that have been here for many generations. And my husband and I came from Sudbury, actually, the Sudbury area, and we lost our house to a fire at that time, and so that sort of concentrated our future plans. And we began looking around, and we decided that we would move down into this area. We liked to ski, we played tennis, we loved outdoors, and the big water attracted us, all of these physical amenities. So we kind of gravitated into this area, into the Thornbury, Meaford area, and started looking around. But when I discovered the municipality of Meaford, and particularly the charming downtown core urban area of Meaford, I looked no further. I fell in love. And it truly is a physical feeling for me, and for many people that I know who come into the area. You come down the hills that approach the water level, and it's just awe-inspiring. It truly is. It's any season, any time of the year. It's truly awe-inspiring. And it just gave me such a warm, comfortable feeling, because I have lived in many, many places in my life, and I was looking for roots, deep roots, and I found them. It was the charming architecture, the small town Ontario feel. I got to know the residents, who were so warm and welcoming and inviting. I thought, this is my forever home, and we sunk our deep roots. And I started volunteering in the community, was the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and went into the founding chair of the Meaford Holland Culture Foundation, which established our cultural icon. And it just seemed to progress from there. It was my way of saying thank you to all of the residents who have done so much to create this environment here. I wanted to be a part of the growth and the movement forward.
Well, that's amazing. I can see the sparkle in your eyes. So in terms of your passion for the municipality of Meaford and the town of Meaford itself. It's a really happening little community. Well, I shouldn't say little. It's a really happening community.
It is so, yes.
There is so much going on. And this is your second term as mayor.
It is.
So you managed to get through the first term.
We did. And, you know, I've watched the history from my volunteer capacity before I became on council. So this is my third term, really. I started as a councillor. And really wanted to get involved in making the decisions that I was, from a volunteer perspective, hoping to see movement towards strengthening the community and doing some of the projects and things that I was very interested in. And so, yes, the first term was was very interesting, and we were just coming out of a very deep, dark hole in terms of financial management, and some of the concerns that we had were obviously infrastructure, which of course now is everybody's major concern. But it's the first term as mayor, we had a 5-year financial recovery plan that we were able to finish in 4, which was really thanks to the determined effort of our taxpayers as well, who were willing to accept double-digit increases until we got our financial ship back in order. So that was a very energizing and very special time, a terrific council that came forward with a lot of good ideas and a lot of support and a real determined effort to make this community the very best place to be in southern Georgian Bay. So we've continued that this term. We've got another great council on side. We've only 2 new councillors joined us, so to me that sent a very strong message when you have 5 of 7 returning councillors. That sent a very strong message that we were on the right track and we needed to continue on in that vein. So very exciting.
Strong leadership is really important in terms of righting the ship, putting things back together again. And yes, I did watch as Meaford went through a very rocky time and has come through that. And it seems to be even stronger and growing more so now, and has sort of anchored itself in the county as an area of growth in a lot of different ways.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think logistically, I guess, and geographically, we're kind of on the western extremity of where the major growth in southern Georgian Bay has taken place through Collingwood and Thornbury area. So we're kind of the next frontier, I guess, if you will, on that side. And we've been discovered. We know that last year and the year before, we had record building permit issuing, and we reached $42 million in terms of building permits required. Last year we fell slightly under that, but still very high. And this year we're certainly on track to better that mark right off the bat. We've, the first part of 2019 is showing very, very strong.
Is it because I know that the Collingwood area is very pricey in terms of homes? Now, is Meaford just a little bit less and a little more affordable for people that would draw them?
It is. That is the case. We're still at that, that affordable stage. We're calling it attainable. Well, then this is a very big focus for us going forward. It was at the last term as well. In fact, we hosted the Mayor's Forum on attainable housing. That really kicked off.
I was there.
Yes.
I attended that. That was amazing.
It was such an energizing discussion. It was wonderful that we had so much diverse participation, not only from other neighboring municipalities, but from the planners, the Chief Planners Institute, and it was just a terrific kind of kickstart to this conversation that now everybody's having, because it is a way of the future. We have to have attainable housing, not only for those who are moving into our area, our families and seniors that are moving in that we've known about, but the other I guess obstacle challenge that we've discovered is that we have many, many jobs in this area that go unfulfilled. So a workforce is imperative. We've got to have a strong, vital workforce. Well, that workforce has to have a place to live. And they can't live because many of the jobs that we have in this area are service related.
Yes.
And so they're perhaps not as high paying as some other jobs. And the cost of living and where there is affordable, attainable housing is just so important. So we're putting a very big push on that going forward.
I found that forum to be not only informative, but it was a full house. I mean, people came from all over to the auditorium was full. Yeah. And that was pretty amazing, because for the first initiative in order to do that, it was taking a risk that really paid off.
It was, and it wouldn't have happened without the strong support of the Planning Institute, and that certainly really provided a lot of strength to that, because they invited planners then from all over, and that really was a strong component of it, and it provided lots of input as well. We even had a presentation, if you'll recall, Mary Jane, from Funky Bunkies. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, that was really fun to have that kind of conversation.
It was embracing housing of all nature, and we're in a time frame when we can't exclude any new ideas,
Exactly.
because the housing market, or the need, is so diverse now. And we have, folks who are struggling financially, who need a place to stay. We have seniors with other challenges as well, so their housing needs to be adaptable, affordable, and accessible. And then we have, growing families who actually need housing where the heating costs, the home is efficient, where the heating costs are not so high, so that they can manage all the needs within that. So housing is a real hot topic, actually, in all the areas in the municipality in Grey, because we have geographical challenges as well, and small communities, large communities.
Large communities, spread out communities. We do not have community transportation.
That's right.
And that is certainly a factor as well. So you're quite right, and it's exciting to think of the different kinds of housing that would be appropriate for this area. We've learned about things like dormitory housing that is popular in ski resorts out west, for example, where they have temporary housing, or seasonal housing, I guess they would call it, for workers. And so all of these ideas are very intriguing. I think often of shared accommodation. Perhaps a family of generational family will share an accommodation, which brings the idea of family together, but also shared accommodation, shared expenses, and affordability for our seniors who are living alone, and it provides a sociability as well. So,
I grew up in a 4-generational home.
Did you really?
I did. My grandmother all the way down to my nephew.
Nice.
So it was a busy household, and in all 3 levels of the house. So there was a lot of closeness growing up.
And what a value that gives to each generation of the families that are living there. It's really quite remarkable, and I think it's certainly something to be looking at. In terms of diversified housing for our seniors, long-term care is a hot button issue as well.
Yes.
And we have a much larger component of seniors in our area in Grey County than we do in many places in Ontario. And this is going to be the way of the future as our baby boomers age and reach that cohort. What happens after that's going to be a challenge, another challenge, but maybe that isn't our responsibility at this stage.
Well, but it looks like you're planning forward.
Oh, for sure we are, and looking at least 10 years down the road, so that we build the future now incrementally, and we look at this 4-year term of council and what our priorities are. But in the context of our mission, our vision, which is to have the municipality of Meaford be the place to be in Southern Georgian Bay. So to reach that, we need to be looking, what does this mean 10 years down? What does that look like 10 years down the road? And then what does it look like on all of those stages in between?
When I was preparing to meet with you today, I listened to the video of your last interview with David Shearman, and there was a number of cues that you and Rob Armstrong were sharing with the audience in terms of what you are planning going forward. And building in those structures. And one of them was the budget, and how you've managed to put a budget together that is quite acceptable for your residents. So you were mentioning that the tax increase was going to be 2.7?
2.71. We had started off with a considerably higher target as presented by staff. It was over 4%. That was not acceptable to council as a 4% increase. And so the next stage of the presentation was you've got to get it down to 3.67, something like that. What we finally ended up with after many discussions with and public input and questions to staff for, can you think of this, can you think of that, and how do we put all of this together? We ended up with a 2.71% increase, which is reasonable given the times. First have to say what a tremendous effort staff put into determining what a presentation, the budget presentation, should look like. And it's particularly challenging for the first term, for the first year of the term of a new term of council.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have new councillors coming on side, of course, and the returning councillors have had that opportunity to really understand about reserves and about all of the little innuendos that are associated with the budget and the budget preparation. So it has been a challenge, but I'll tell you the council has come forward with good questions, with suggestions, with thoughts, and a huge learning opportunity for everyone. And we will hopefully pass our budget formally at the next council meeting, which is March the 25th. But there's some actual things that are unique about this budget. First of all, we're going to be looking at an increase in the operational budget of, or the tax supported budget of 14 million. But that's not even a little more, I guess, than half of what our overall budget is in terms of managing all of the services and the programs and the legislated requirements of our municipality. That comes in at $32.1 million.
I don't know that everyone realizes that there's certain pieces in the municipality that are absolutely mandated. You don't have any flexibility in that. Your costs are fixed in reference to being able to have that service, and it's mandated, so you have to wiggle around other areas.
That's absolutely true. Your discretionary budget are the things that the additional services that we provide to our residents. Last term of council, we did a very intense, thorough review of all of the 66 services provided to our residents. It took us 2 years to do it. It was a very, very big project, but it laid the foundation for exactly what it means to the taxpayer, but also what that level of service should be for each of the services that are delivered. Parks, Rec, and Culture, for example. You know, how do we manage our parks and our road maintenance and so on. There are legislative services, which of course you've mentioned, and which of course includes maintaining the roads. But there's standards of maintenance for the road maintenance on an annual basis that can be raised at the local level, and that's what we've done in the municipality of Meaford. Our standards of road maintenance is higher than some of our neighbors, most of our neighbors, in fact, in Grey County.
Well, I think part of what I heard in the video was your good news story about how people were happy about the snow removal. And
that was certainly thanks to the growing pains, and we have changed the winter maintenance and winter control methods a couple of years ago, thanks to it, again, mostly in the rural area, because we are a very rural community. We're all rural community. And folks really wanted to have a change of the service delivery, which took us away from just 2 swipes around the roads on a given day. They could get out in the morning from their rural homes, but oftentimes they couldn't get back home at night because of the drifting, you know, the geographic location where we are. There's drifting, snow comes in, and it changes hourly.
Yes, yes.
And so that was changed. The number of routes were reduced, but the level of service was increased significantly. And as a result, we've had folks that are fairly happy with the winter maintenance this year. And it wasn't as brutal a winter. It was a long, dreary winter, I think, but not perhaps quite as snowy and up and down as last year.
Well, where I live in Georgian Bluffs, we had like clockwork, a snowstorm every week. And so we were always storm stayed for 2 or 3 days before we could even get out. And it was like it's Tuesday, here it comes.
Here it comes. The school children love it.
18 days that they miss school.
Yeah.
So you have quite an agenda there. So how are we doing in working through the important messages?
The important messages. I think that's all. Oh, just one other quick point that I wanted to make at this stage, and that is for the first time we have taken the actual growth assessment, the assessment of the growth in property assessments, and translated that into having a direct impact on the tax levy for property taxes. In the past, and we know that because of the builds, because of the growth that we have coming in, that there is an increase in assessments. That's what really makes a difference to the homeowner, is the property, the assessment of their properties. And so because of the growth that we've experienced, that has grown, obviously. But in the past, all of that growth assessment was directed to infrastructure projects. So we really didn't see it as a part of or having a direct impact on lowering the tax levy that is required from the rest of our property and the rest of our tax classifications. And this year we made that step forward, and that to me shows is the result of what I've been talking about, I think, for many, many years, is that the only way that we are going to have an impact on tax levies and on the amount of taxes that people have to pay for their properties is by expanding our tax base.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to increase growth. We have to have new residents coming in, new homes that share that burden.
Well, Meaford has a lot of unique features, but it doesn't have big industry to share that tax base. And so, as I understand it, I'm sure you'll enlighten me if I'm wrong, that it's mostly small businesses, entrepreneurs that are really the basis for the tax base. But I don't know of any large manufacturing that is happening within the municipality of Meaford.
That's quite correct. And in fact, our largest, industrial industry is agriculture. And, and that has a very different tax structure as well. So, you know, we have our hospital, and we have our schools. We also have the military in our property as well, within our municipality. So that's really the largest cadre of employers. And but agriculture is huge, and so you're quite right. The largest percentage of our tax revenue comes from property owners.
And building new houses, building more houses, brings in more people, at a more affordable rate.
Higher property assessments and so on, yeah.
And people shop. We always encourage people to shop locally, to support the businesses,
of course,
in their own communities.
And the other advantage to increasing, attracting new residents, of course, they're going to be demanding stores and shops and services, and so those are opportunities for entrepreneurs.
Oh, yes.
So it's exciting to see families coming in, though. This is really exciting. We expected to see a significant increase in seniors because of the location and the amenities that we have to offer. But it's really exciting to see our families growing as well. And I think one of the reasons for that is, of course, that we're going to be getting a brand new school.
Oh, yes. I was just going to lead into that, but you did a better job. Yes.
Very exciting.
So tell us about the school.
Well, we've talked about it many times on this
have
program,
you?
but that's okay. Always happy to talk about it again.
I must have missed that one.
No, it's because well, I guess maybe with the change in government, maybe there was some thought that maybe this wouldn't happen, but we were promised a brand new school. And we had 3 schools, and within the one high school and 2 elementary schools. And they've been amalgamated. One has been closed, and the other 2, one is from kindergarten to grade 4, and then at our former high school, then is the amalgamation of all the other grades. So our brand new school is going to be a composite from JK to 12, which is going to be really interesting to see how that works.
I think Wyerton has the same kind of model. Have you connected with them?
We certainly have. In fact, we've been to visit. I was out to have a look at that school. It works very, very well, very invigorating and exciting, you know, all of the children together, all ages and grades. And we are going to be, I understand from the plan, pretty much the mirror image of what the Wyerton School is. So.
I see. So you're copying on the success.
Yeah. The school board is
enhancing the success.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I've seen the plans. Not only have they accommodated grades JK to 12, but they've also built in the opportunity for expansion, which I was really thrilled to see, because that suggests to me that they too are understanding that we're going to grow.
Well, the other thing too is a school anchors a community. And when that school is thriving, the community is also thriving. And when a school is removed from a community, it's a real heartache.
Oh, it is.
And so I'm really pleased to hear that Meaford is on the track for a new school to keep that community thriving.
Well, we are too, and we certainly sympathize with all of the troubles that other smaller communities have gone through. It is really a difficult situation. But we have our students come from Thornbury area as well, the town of Blue Mountains, to high school as well. So we're kind of a regional high school, a composite. But it's you know, it's not only that the small rural communities have difficulty with, but it's healthcare as well. And this is another area of concern of mine in terms of primary healthcare access and to you know, all of the services that are required to keep a community healthy. But that may be a topic for another another visit.
Well, you do have your hospital there.
We do.
Yes.
We do. Thankfully, it's thriving. We were somewhat nervous about that a little while ago, too. That has now our operating room is incorporated into the GBHS surgical units. And so we're very happy with that. Where we struggle right now is with physician recruitment. We're down significantly, and we have imminent retirements for some of our aging physicians. So there's that, and then of course within the structure of the workforce that we need to have within our community is healthcare workers. There's a huge void there too.
Well, if it's an aging community, we need the PSWs and the support care workers and the structure that goes around that, so that, and being rural, that they are paid a living wage.
Correct.
And their travel is, because they are traveling from long distances between clients, that is covered as well, so that you have a workforce that really and truly is enjoying their jobs in that and supporting the aging population that's going on.
Yeah.
And then they're your residents as well, because they're younger and they have growing families.
Yeah.
So it is a domino effect.
For sure.
So I think
Are you getting the nod that we have
the 1 minute mark, and we will be back in a few minutes. We're going to continue our conversation with the Mayor of Municipality of Meaford, Barb Clumpus, which has, I think we've just gone partway down her list, so we have so much more to talk about. And we'll be back right after these messages.
The following program is brought to you by Rogers Anyplace TV. Enjoy exclusive content for free. Visit RogersAnyplaceTV.com.
You know the story, when the RCAF said Mach 2 fighter, 2-place 1,000-mile range, the British said it was impossible. The Yanks tried twice and failed. They said, you're dreaming. We said, fine, we'll build it right here in Toronto. And now you guys, my guys, are saying that it can't be done, that they were right?
Now that's the rocket that we used to get the model up to speed, and then the onboard sensors tells the...
Come on, baby.
Damn it!
But we did it according to your specs. The specs have changed.
We did it.
Arrow 201. You're cleared for takeoff.
Although the government canceled the project and destroyed the prototypes, the Avro Arrow remains for Canada a world benchmark in aerospace achievement.
Hi, I'm Jackson Doherty. Tune in Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. for Attack Rap on Rogers TV.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
And we're back. And we are speaking with the Mayor of the Municipality of Meaford, Barb Clumpus, and we're going to continue on with her long list of things to talk about. We're having such an interesting conversation. It's such a delight to be talking to you, Barb. And so we have another delightful topic, which is just coming up, and that is the new library.
Yes, how exciting is this going to be? It is going to be a very, very busy summer for Meaford. I've often said we should just put a big banner at the entrances that watch us grow. We're under construction. It is going to be a very busy summer. Our new library just received an amazing gift from the Trillium Foundation of $150,000. So that put the fundraising, the community fundraising target well, very, very close to 400,000, and it was the goal is 750,000. So we're getting very, very close to closing that gap. And it's really wonderful to see the enthusiasm, particularly of our library staff. They're an amazing group. They really are. They just do such a wonderful job of promoting and integrating, providing programs. When you think of the number of programs that are at our library now and that will move into the new location, it's really more of a community hub. It just no longer is a repository for books. You know, there's just so much going on.
Well, I had the opportunity to visit the existing library now, and I was absolutely impressed with how the staff had managed to make the best use of the complicated space and the stairs and the little rooms here and there, and what a good job they did. And it was just a really warm and welcoming place. I was quite blown away when I visited, and I was there more than once, a few times. So I'm really interested in seeing what's going to be the new library, and of course it will be more accessible.
Absolutely. That that was the predominant reason why we had to make this push because all of our facilities have to be accessible by 2025.
Right, yes.
And so having this opportunity to move into a one-floor the former Foodland, while we were very disappointed to see the end of that business leave our downtown core area, it provided such an opportunity to look at it from the library's perspective. Being on one floor is going to mean a lot more efficiency in terms of the utilization of staff time. And in fact, I was told it may even mean longer hours because the staff can be spread out more efficiently throughout the week. So having it all on one floor, having a teen room and a children's room, one of the saddest things of our existing library was seeing mums going downstairs into the basement carrying a child in a car seat and another toddler into story hours, and it just was not suitable at all. And this will be far, far more suitable for all of the programming that the library has to offer.
But not only that, but the location as well. It's more
right
central.
Downtown.
It is more central, which gives people access to just walk.
Well, and that's another very interesting feature, to have it still in roughly the same area of the downtown core. But we see that this is going to be kicking off the revitalization of our downtown Main Street core. I think that once this happens, this is really showing that we're on the move, we're growing. This will be a cornerstone, as is Meaford Hall on the other end of the block, for that downtown core. So folks can come and spend the day, go to the library and shop and go for lunch, and within walking distance of everything. So it's,
well, you have some really neat little shops in the downtown core, and some maybe sort of unsung or undiscovered little shops that are down there. This bringing people to the library is going to give them an opportunity, maybe they may have to drive to the library, but they may spend more time in the downtown area with the shops and the restaurants and the boutiques and that sort of thing. But one of the things, as you mentioned, the sad part was losing a grocery store.
Yes. So
how did you solve the challenge of the grocery store being on the east side of Meaford and folks living on the west side? So how did that
occurred? Well, thank you for asking that question, because it really was finding a creative solution to a problem. We had many folks who live in the downtown core area, but they don't have transportation. It's a problem getting around it within the municipality as well, but this provided a real immediate concern. And so what we did, we have an accessible van that our residents can call up if they qualify for this because of mobility issues or any other kind of physical issue. And so that accessibility van was used on just certain hours of the day. So we thought, well, maybe we can increase the usage of this and create an in-town transit system. And that's what we did. Was we have a second van now that does an in-town route and stops at various locations throughout the downtown area. The unfortunate part of all of this, though, is that it is not widely used, and that was really a surprise and disappointing. But I think it's because rural people are not used to having transportation, and so it's difficult to keep that moving. The other thing that the municipality has, and we're not alone in this, but we receive a gas tax money from the province and from the federal government. And our provincial gas tax money can only be used for public transit. So this, we had a pilot project now for a couple of years, was a way that we could use this gas tax money efficiently. And unfortunately, it may have to end by the end of when the contract is up.
Oh dear.
So that is going to provide another challenge and another opportunity. We'll have to find some other way to move our people throughout throughout the area too, because that is a void. What has happened though as a result is some of our local stores, our convenience stores, even our drugstore, has picked up on providing essential food. Food essentials, I guess, so that those are accommodated for people who don't have transportation, and we do have taxis and so on that that also will help. And our accessible van is still available and it can be put into even greater service.
When you call it the accessible van, do you have to have meet a criteria in order to use it? Oh, okay, so it's not just a mom with 3 kids who needs to get groceries. She would not be able to use it.
It is you have to qualify for that, a mobility issue or some other impediment to mobility.
Well, there are challenges.
There are always. There are always.
That's what gets you up in the morning.
Well, it is, because it's just they're challenges, but they're opportunities too.
Yes. Okay, so how are we doing with your
the other thing that comes along with our capital projects this year, when we talked about a busy summer, is our Sykes Street Bridge is going to be under construction.
Right. Yes. So and that's your main street.
It is. It is the direct line. It's essential to have that repaired, of course.
Oh, yes.
We did the Bake Shop Bridge last year, and now the Sykes Street Bridge, and perhaps next year is going to be the other bridge coming over the river. But we received a significant grant from the province to make this happen. And so what we will be doing, we'll be looking at closing one lane on the bridge to keep that open, so that's direct access to the downtown businesses. And it also provides a straight line for the transport trucks that go through. So it will cost a little more, and it will take a little longer. But the good news is that we awarded the RFP, the bid, to a company to begin work on the Sykes Street Bridge, and their proposal came in at $350,000 less than what we had anticipated.
Oh, wow.
That doesn't happen very often, so we were thrilled.
Your contingency fund.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting in these small communities. You know, if we have a 10-minute traffic jam, we all get really kind of hyped up about it. And yet when we go to Toronto and we sit on the 401 for an hour, you know, it's just, so I think...
It's all relative, isn't it?
It is. But I think, you know, we just all really have to value and be patient in our communities. I know that Owen Sound's going to be doing some bridge work as well.
Yes.
Ours is going to be lasting almost a year and a half. How long is the Sykes Bridge?
Well, the anticipation is that it will be months. We haven't seen the whole time frame yet. I can't tell you what the end date is, but it will be started in the summertime. And you know, the Bake Shop Bridge that we did last year was delayed significantly.
Oh, yeah.
We build in weather delays and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we hopefully have learned that, you know, from looking at the difficulties we had with the Bake Shop Bridge in terms of the water main that had to be replaced, and the infrastructure underneath the bridge that we didn't have any records of because it was built so long ago. This bridge is different, and it won't run into the same problems. So hopefully it'll be finished as soon as they can.
Well, we learn from one experience to the next, and how to do it better, and how to circumvent some of those those hiccups that we weren't expecting in the first place. So
hopefully we do get wiser as we get older.
Yes, and I was. Well, we're working on that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Working on that.
It was really a piece of information. It's really sort of trivia that you have 88 bridges in the municipality of Meaford. I never realized that before. I know that you're not planning on having to redo every single one of them, but you're looking at the significant ones. So
One of the things that has happened over the years is that we have done for roads as well as, and now we've done it for bridges as well, created what we call the SOTI, the State of the Infrastructure. And that's what determines the lifespan that is left for all of these structures, our roads and our bridges. And 88 bridges is a lot, as you've said. But you have to remember, all of the tributaries that are reaching Georgian Bay.
Yes.
And so there's a large number of them that, and some of them are on very rural roads and are, don't have a lot of traffic on those bridges. So we're going to have to be making some very, very tough decisions because it costs a lot to replace and to remediate those bridges that have never had the attention that perhaps should have happened over the years.
Now, would those bridges be used by farmers and their big tractors and their loads of hay or their cattle transportation, that sort of thing?
Exactly, and therein lies a real concern for council. Because it affects the livelihood of our farmers. But we also have to remember that farm equipment is larger and heavier than it used to be.
Oh, yes.
And so, some of the bridges are just not built for that size of equipment either. So the challenges are many. And not only, the traffic flow or the cars and vehicles, but heavier vehicles, heavier farm vehicles. More frequent use, the more people that are coming into the area. So it is going to be a real challenge to be making decisions on. We now are sitting with a report that we have approved at the council level to close 4 bridges. 2 of them are closed now because of an engineering study that has said they're going to fail. So for safety, we have to close those bridges. But that still affects people's lives, and so we have to be very, very careful about how we approach these decisions on, is there some other way that we can remediate these bridges, or are there, all of them have to have another route to get from A to B.
A traffic route.
A traffic route, and it may mean that they have to travel one concession over. It may add a few minutes longer to their time of travel. But we'll have to also look at what the economic impact of that, those delays and that movement means to the individuals who are affected.
Well, the tragedy is if the bridge fails while there's transportation on top of it, or truck traffic or car traffic. I mean, that would be a tragedy. It would, seriously. Yeah. So the safety feature has to factor into that first and foremost. First and foremost, for sure. Yes. Which is why those bridges have been closed, and why that we're looking at, some others that will be in the same situation. It's going to be a challenge. There's no question about it. We'll have to think very carefully and factor in all of the issues that we know, because we hear from the farmers, we hear from the people, the residents who use it as a shortcut or whatever, and it's important to people. Well, your agricultural base is your big industry. It's your industry. Yes, that's right. Absolutely. So, wow. One of the things we did go through the state of the infrastructure for our roads, and again, we all know that rural roads are, all of our roads are in very, very sad state and very, very bad repair. But one of the things I'm excited to find out more about is that we've approved a program called Street Scan that is going to send a vehicle through every kilometer that we have in our municipality and give us an accurate data collection of what that kilometer looks like. The surface treatment, the base, the ditching, the erosion that happens on the side, the ride. All of this information is going to be available and
to be making decisions about which roads are the worst and which roads need to be attended to, and what we can do in terms of remediation, whether it's reconstruction or partial just a surface treatment or what we can do. But that'll be data driven. And we hear, of course, from residents all the time that their road is the worst, and we all know that our road is the worst. So it's important to have a mechanism by which to make these decisions that are fair and equitable across the board.
Well, I think when you're using data information, it kind of levels the playing field that we understand.
Yeah.
That it's an objective assessment of what is happening.
Right.
And yes, so your road might be the second worst and it's not the worst. Yeah.
Sorry to say, but the important piece here is to have a 10-year plan of remediation. How are we going to address all of these situations?
And you called it asset management?
Asset management.
Yes. And you've been putting aside 2.5%
of our operational budget. Yes.
Every year?
Every year for the past now 5 years.
Yeah.
And that has created quite a reserves. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of having these reserves, we're about $9 million, I think, close to that in terms of reserves. Some of it statutory, that we mandated that we cannot deal with development charges and that kind of thing, but discretionary reserves that we can use for roads projects or any other kind of capital projects. But what that does is it puts us in a position where we have skin in the game and we can apply for funds from other government sources that will help us get those projects done.
Excuse me, it gives you leverage.
Gives us leverage. Yeah, exactly right.
So are these grants available coming up?
The federal government just announced major infrastructure grants that are coming on stream, so we'll see what that will bring. And certainly we've been fortunate to have gas tax money from the federal government and provincial grants as well. So things are changing. They're always changing, but we have to be ready for every opportunity.
Well, every time that there is a change in government, there's also a change in regulations. So
Correct.
It puts municipalities sometimes at a disadvantage when they're putting their budgets together as to whether or not are we going to continue to get the funding that we've had in the previous years? Are they going to reduce the funding? Are they going to cancel it? Are they going to enhance it? So how do you predict your budgets when you have this external force sort of pulling the strings that you have no control over?
Right. Very, very, very good question. In fact, we were faced with that this year in our budget, the OMPF funding, that's the provincial funding. We received notice that it was not going to be continued in the same vein. Well, that really then was, putting us all in a position, how do we budget for this? Because we count on this. This is part of, the basic funding model. And then we got word, thankfully, that it would be maintained for this year. In the future, we don't know, but this year is fine. So 2019 budget is fine in terms of the OMPF funding. But how that is addressed in the future, we'll learn very quickly, I'm sure.
Well, I believe that there's a group of municipalities, there's some kind of organization that may be pushing back on the province in terms of their decision making and ensuring that funding continues in some form.
Correct. Yes, that's the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO. Very, very strong lobby group, and they do such good work on behalf of all of us. It's really a great organization to be a part of, and we appreciate their efforts for sure.
Well, I know that sometimes when the powers to be are in the Toronto area, they don't always understand what rural life is like. And so when they make these decisions, they're not always taking into consideration what the challenges are in some of the rural areas. And we travel 40 minutes to get to the next community. We're not traveling 10 minutes.
Yes.
It's not the same thing. So I'm glad to see that our MPPs are traveling around our communities and listening to people. And we just need the power players in the Toronto area to understand the challenges as well.
We also have the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, Roma. And that is exactly what you speak of. That's a lobby group that is specifically geared to the rural communities. And they do a great job as well. So we have the larger group, the AMO, which covers all of Ontario, but then Roma, and then we have a small urban. So there's small associations that are applicable to different types of and configurations of municipality.
Well, those advocacy groups are really important.
They are so important. Yes, they do a great job, and in addition, we at the county level and at the municipal level have access to the ministers in person when we attend these conventions and conferences. I spoke with the Minister of Health and Long-Term Care when we were at the Roma conference in February. And we have that opportunity, which is greatly appreciated, because we can bring local issues to their attention.
And some of the stories, it's the stories that resonate, not necessarily the facts, figures, and data.
Correct.
It is the stories that they take away and then just kind of
stick in their minds.
Yes,
yeah,
that's important.
For sure.
So how are we doing with your list?
Well, I think the only thing I have coming up that's very exciting is the launch on March the 26th of our new website.
Oh.
And this has been a long time in the preparation stage, and we're very excited to see what this looks like. But it's going to include the municipal website, the library, and the museum as well. Folks are going to be able to sign into recreation programs or sign up for news and alerts, email updates, and we have a new and improved event calendar. We can have the ability to report concerns online. It's going to be something is going to, I'm told, very user-friendly, which I'm looking forward to. So that's happening on March the 26th. And Jay, I don't know, I think we've pretty much covered everything. We know that we're in the pothole season. And,
yes, I knew that was going to come up. I have it actually written down here.
It's always a challenge every year, but as you've mentioned, that we have had positive feedback in terms of the winter control, and I just wanted to mention that we do have a very strong program that is provides a level of service that we're very proud of, and that we feel is above what we can find in some of our neighbors. So it's good to have. It's costly, of course, but it means that the standard of winter maintenance and winter control that we have is something that our people have asked for, and that we're able to provide. It's not perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect, and some of our potholes are pretty wild. But the potholes are fixed, are attended to every year, annually. The maintenance programs, winter control is one thing, but also then we talked about the SOTI, the state of the infrastructure, as being a longer term response to major road rehabilitation.
Well,
I think we're about out of time.
I think we're getting the high sign here in terms of having to wrap up. Well, I've really enjoyed the conversation today, Barb, and it was really nice seeing you again. And I really am inspired by the message that you've brought in terms of what is happening in the municipality of Meaford. And, I really just sort of need to go and pay another visit.
Please come and visit.
I have. It's been a few months since I've been over there. So I'm now that the sunshine is out and we've got some nice spring weather, yes. I'm happier to be on the roads.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, yes, it's been delightful. And please join us again next week when David will be back. And safe travels.
Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Are you the type who would keep going or stop? It's not easy to stop when you have an addiction. Legalizing cannabis won't stop addiction. It trivializes its consumption. Let's be vigilant. If you need help, visit portage.ca.